Hi everyone, it's Molly Riversea, and this is Dante, a 17-hand high 12-year-old Frisian stallion who is brand new to the barn of the Cosmic Equestrian Center. He was actually imported from the British Isles and is a very advanced dressage stallion. But today we're gonna do something he's never done and try some show jumping. I'm super curious to see how he'll go. He seems like a horse that's pretty game for anything, so let's see how he fares, shall we? First things first, I took him down to the wash stalls to give him a groom. Then I got him situated in the cross ties, which he was a bit wary of because, interestingly enough, at his old yard, they never use cross ties. So that's just one of the many things he has been adjusting to here lately. And you might notice something's a bit different about Dante. I trimmed his mane, okay? He had a Rapunzel moment. I know. But this way, he'll look a bit smarter when we're showing. Plus, I found it really difficult to ride him with all that hair. I would lose contact and then have to come to a complete stop practically to search for my rein again in that super long, thick mane. Not to mention all the maintenance that comes along with having a gorgeous mane like that. With that being cleared up, it was time to give him a groom, so I worked through his super sleek coat with a curry comb and then a dandy brush to get all the grease and dust off. But who am I kidding? It is impossible to get all of it off. Then I picked his hooves out, and sooner than later it was time to tack up. Here is a little tack the day for you all. I first popped his navy blue jumping saddle pad on, then got my ebony classic jumping saddle on him, which he of course had to give me a bit of side eye to because this was a lot different from his typical dressage saddle that he's worn his whole life. Then I got these licorice leg open front boots to give him a bit more protection when jumping, and last but not least, I then put on his personal bridle, which is just the Plum Prestige bridle. When I grabbed my gloves and helmet, it was time to hit the road. And welcome to our jump ring. We are in a different arena. We've moved on from the Cosmic Equestrian Center today, taken a little hack down to a local school because our arena is being rented by a pony club, so we had to make a shift in plans. But this will do more than enough today because it is an absolutely enormous arena. I had planned every last detail of our session today. First step was to give him a lunge, just so I could get a feel for what kind of mood he was in today. So I put the stirrups up safely so they don't flap around by sides, and then I clipped on some side reins to just encourage flexion and softness in his mouth while we're lunging. When we started off, there was another person in the ring, which he was a little looky-loo at, so he wasn't really attentive to me. I just had him do some trot canter transitions, so he really had to put his focus on me and my cues. And he was feeling fresh today. Being new to the barn, I have been taking things slow with him, so he's not in full work quite yet, but this just manifested itself with a slightly more extended fancy trot. I was very pleased to see that he was able to channel his energy into something productive rather than just bucking and running off. I honestly wouldn't ride something that I don't trust on the ground, but anyways, he was looking really good, so when I felt that he was relaxed enough, we switched things up and moved to under saddle work. That was simply our pre-warm-up. I still wanted to do some exercises with him to get him in the state of mind for jumping. First, I gave him an active walk, then trotted him with some changes of directions. My goal was just to keep things as simple as possible, just light and fun, so he'll have a really good head on him for show jumping. I then started to use transitions to establish the best canter possible, making sure that he was very responsive to my aids. I really wanted an energetic jumping canter that's more open and has greater ground covering strides than a typical working canter. I was kind of hesitant to get him into the very forward canter at first. It felt odd because I've only really done a pretty collected dressage canter with him so far, so I really had to push myself to be bold and get him there. And when I asked him to go forward, he did a little too good of a job because he super extended and got off faster than I was expecting, nearly at a gallop. But once I regained my balance, I was able to steady him. I kept just extending and collecting to see what kind of accelerators and brakes, so to speak, he had today, which is really essential when we're considering jumping because you want your horse to go willingly forward, but also steady his speed promptly without any fighting it against contact. Now, can we skip to the fun part, please? Welcome to the magically transformed arena, everybody. I have set up a number of exercises for Dante Dante just to get him ready to rock and roll in the jump ring. First, we'll test our luck over some trot pulls, and we'll slowly build our way up to more and more advanced exercises depending on how Dante is feeling. Let's have at it. Pole work is great to help develop a horse's jumping abilities. So we trotted over them. He was kind of behind the leg at first, so we lost our rhythm and tempo and added a stride here and there where there wasn't supposed to be one. Wasn't too pretty. The next time through, I gave him a much more energetic and forward trot on our approach, which really helped him get the proper rhythm in so he could make those strides. He went over much smoother, so I kept that confidence and added a level with some canter ground poles, and he was immediately spot on, didn't touch a single pole. And so we moved on to something that would prove to be a bit more testing, which was grid work, with the goal being to improve his coordination and balance. He was so successful the first time around, I just left it there to help give him a confidence boost when he starts jumping, and hopefully he'll really feel like he can tackle anything. Our next step up would be to actually lift off the ground and jump a small cross rail as an introductory jumping exercise at a trot. Easy enough, right? He took a very skeptical pause, and as I encouraged him forward, giving him a few squeezes, he was like, "This is really stupid, how about we just go around it?" And as you guys can see here, he eventually, very cutely, crow hopped it. He did this not once, but several times. I don't think that the concept of jumping was quite clicking in his brain, but with repetition, he started to get the hang of it, and I decided it was time to pick it up to a canter. This time through, I added a ground pull before the jump to encourage him to keep calm and steady rather than totally rushing at the cross rail, which somewhat worked. But it was still a little iffy at first because the first time through, he actually jumped the ground pull and the cross rail. The second time though, he did get the hang of what we were meant to be doing. Of course, I had to help him out a bit though with giving him some half halts and just kind of talking with him through my reins and steadying my seat. Now he completely overjumped it, which popped me out of my saddle, but hey, I was just happy he was making it over without feeling the need to rush or jump every little thing. Now, I felt like we were ready to add some serious complexity, so we attempted the bounce jumps. We didn't have enough impulsion, so we broke it down to a very fast choppy trot again, and this time it started okay. But then he lost energy, he knocked a pull, and he got spooked, which sent him flying through, and of course he kept knocking more and more pulls throughout the course. Next time through, I pushed him into a very energetic canter, and that went really well, as you can see here, and he didn't stumble, just was a very good boy, picked up his feet really nicely, and he got through it. At this point, I felt comfortable enough to circle back to the cross rails, and this time add some fillers to the cross rails, which he had to check out at first. Our line wasn't very straight coming up to it, and he didn't have enough impulsion because he was pretty hesitant, so we recircled instead of pushing onward into a sloppy jump. The goal here is to build his confidence, not break it. The second time he looked at the jump, it must have been a lot less scary because he went over really nice and gave me a cute jump here. The next level up was to try a small double, which is basically 2 fences in a straight line with 1 or 2 non-jumping strides in between them. I used my leg to get a nice active canter, and then I just looked into the middle of the fences to get our lines straight on. I had to make sure my body language was really confident. In between fences, I could feel some sulking back, but with a bit of a struggle to get more energy in him, we made it over both fences. We did another double, and he was really good. I could tell he was getting better with each jump. My goal was just to build his confidence to the point he got bored with what he was doing, and that indeed happened. Dante is such a fast learner, and I was really impressed with how keen he was to all the fences we'd attempted so far. And then it was time for some serious show jumping. I decided to ride some singles that were just a notch higher than what we were previously riding because I was curious about how much scope this horse has. I rode up to one, and he just flat out refused it. Instead of hounding him on one jump, I switched it up, and I was shocked that we had yet another refusal. It was rough. I'm thankful I didn't fall because that would have been a very big confidence knock for him this early on in the game. I was going to lower it when I attempted once more, and something must have sparked in him because he gave me a great big forward canter and flew over the jump. I was so stinking proud of him. And with that, we just had a little play around with some other fences. We rode a few more single fences until the point where he was really confident with taking on all the jumps thus far. So I figured it would be a perfect note to end off this wild ride on for the both of us. All in all, I don't think he found the prospect of jumping colored sticks on the ground very amusing. but that is why he is a dressage horse, and he gets an A for effort because he was such a good boy for being so apt, trying something completely new for him. Gotta love how I go to great lengths to get a dreamy dressage stallion and bring him home and start jumping immediately. Hey, now I can say I tried, and that will stick to dressage with this big guy. Anyways, I hope you all enjoyed the video. Make sure to subscribe to be a part of our barn family here at the Cosmic Equestrian Center, and I will catch you in the next video. Bye! Now let's get you out of that jumping saddle, buddy.
Fell in love in Minnesota, fell apart south of Salt